So in this video I'll basically just be responding to a few of the common comments that I've not covered in detail before. I prefer to do them in a format where I do sort of half a dozen at once rather than responding to people individually unless they actually say something worth responding to. I do respond to quite a lot of these people in like text format, however it is very limited on TikTok how many characters and stuff you can use, but the vast majority of them don't come back, so they're not worth the individual reply videos. I still like to do one of these every so often and cover the comments that are made and the points that are made, just so that anyone else can see that it's just excuses or distance in language or deflection or hyperbole. There's nothing to any of it, or if there is, we can answer it, we can debunk it. So this first one is a common comment that I have, but essentially what he's quoting here is the Nirvana fallacy, where because there isn't 100% perfect or ideal solution to something, or because someone can't do something 100% effectively and perfectly, then it's not worth trying. We've got two options, and because the other one isn't perfect, we might as well stick with what we've got, which is really silly. But to give you a couple of examples which make this seem even sillier, imagine that you call the fire brigade to say that there's 20 people trapped in a house, and the fire brigade turn up and they make the assessment that they can only save 18 or 19 of them. They haven't got enough time, they haven't got enough resources, it's just the way it is. Should they turn around and go back to the fire station because they can't save everybody, or should they save everybody that they possibly can? Or take a look at any prototype that's ever been invented for any product ever. I'm sure almost every single one at some stage during its development has failed. All of those people could have just said, we tried, let's just give up. And almost everything that we use, depend on today, wouldn't exist. And when you look at it in that way, it makes it seem as absurd as it really is. The reason that I've said there's no such thing as 100% vegan is because there isn't, and no one's claiming that there is. I don't understand why that would be a weakness to the argument. It's honesty. It's about doing the absolute best you can. I can never tell whether these sort of comments are genuine. However, I'll take it as though they're being serious. Say it's a perfect example of conditioning. This is kind of what a lot of people honestly genuinely do believe. But even if that was the case, which it absolutely definitely is not, really 1,000,000%, I don't know why you'd think that no, that doesn't happen anywhere except in the vet. Even if that was the case, how would it make it better? How would it make it right? You don't have permission, you don't have consent, you're still taking the rights of that animal without them saying you can. Don't understand why people have to sometimes argue about the semantics or what happens. Like, the levels of cruelty don't matter, the fact that they happen full stop is the problem. The moral issue is that we don't respect the rights of animals. The fact that we don't respect them at all is the issue. That's what we need to stop. The levels of cruelty are just like a symptom of the actual problem. We need to fix the problem, and that's a moral issue. One of my least favourite comments to respond to for many, many reasons. So even if this was true in any regard, and I'm going to give it so much benefit of the doubt even saying that, but let's say this guy worked in the farms and the abattoirs, so therefore more than one of each, worked at a farm that was the nicest, the best, the cleanest environment, everyone was happy, everyone was smiling, all the animals were just fucking loving life before they were murdered. And then also in the abattoirs that he was happy enough to work in, same again, standards were just amazing, the animals were absolutely over the moon to have their throats slit, absolutely delighted to be gassed. He just happened to work at those couple of places. Does that mean that the other places that we definitely know exist are not brutal and are not barbaric and they don't suffer? No. So even if this comment had any truth to it, it makes no fucking difference to the whole point. This one sort of follows on loosely from the last point, but I don't want to change the industry. I want it gone. I'm not here trying to encourage farmers to let mothers keep their babies with them. If they've had 100 years of not working that out for themselves and not allowing it to happen because they want profit instead, I'm not interested in them making one small change and still exploiting animals. I want an end to the industry. There's plenty of viable options. They can go plant-based. In the very short term, then obviously if there was legislation passed in every country that made sure that that was something, then that would be a massive step in terms of improvement, but it's not a solution because it still involves the exploitation of millions and millions and millions of cows. So no, The long-term solution has to be an end to the dairy industry for multiple reasons, not just because of what they do to animals, but because of what the damage does to people too. Just because people are convinced that they need these things doesn't mean that they're actually doing them any good. They're actually causing people lots of harm, and an eradication of the dairy industry would be a huge step forward in terms of human progress, even if people don't want to admit it or accept it right now. And that's as many as I'm going to do for now. Thank you for listening. I just wanted to end by repeating something that I find myself saying all the time at the moment. If every human being on the planet died tomorrow, say there was a pathogen or something that wiped us all out, the rest of the world would absolutely thrive without us. Whereas if that was the other way round, we wouldn't last 6 months. We'd turn on each other, we'd kill one another, and we'd be wiped out very, very quickly. We should probably start thinking a little bit more about stuff like that, and how long the world has lasted without us, and how it's us that are destroying it every single day. There's a quote from Abraham Lincoln which I think introduces this next selection of comments fairly well. I believe it is an established maxim in morals that he who makes an assertion without knowing whether it is true or false is guilty of falsehood, and the accidental truth of the assertion does not justify nor excuse him. And with that in mind, welcome to part 2 of responding to comments. Not only is that not true, I made the point of saying that birds were modern day dinosaurs because it's a fact. It wasn't something that I was just saying for effect. I highly suggest that you and everybody else go and watch R&Ra's systematic classification of life. I think that video series should be mandatory in every middle school in the, planet, to be perfectly honest, for people to understand things. I see more and more every day that don't have any understanding of how evolution works or how it's supposed to work. They just make it up as they go along. But even if there was any truth in that, and birds were just birds, it still doesn't give you the right to kill them. It still doesn't give you the right to take their rights away. You don't have that permission. This is basically speciesism by definition, literally. It just summed it up perfectly in a very sad way because they have absolutely no idea what they're saying. But yeah, that is literally the definition of speciesism. There is no difference. Absolutely none. The only difference has been formed by marketing companies and the propaganda of meat and dairy industries. See, their job is really, really easy because they get to more or less say whatever they want, and they've got the funds and the people behind them to get that message spread. Look at how people will go to the lengths they will to defend these companies that they don't even know that they've just bought products from the last 20 odd years. So that's why people like me have such a difficult job of getting through to anyone, because we're going up against not just potentially years and years and years of this stuff, but millions and millions and millions of pounds worth of budget that have been spent trying to force this illusion, really. Shit. I think this one's done me. I don't have anything. I think it's above my level. Fuck. I think that's literally blown my brain. Jonathan, can you help me?
Have you ever had the desire to write your initials in wet cement?
The fuck, man? You've been reading it. Just do the line.
At your convenience.
Try and help someone out.
We made it up. We made this one up. It's a made-up tale. It's a total fabrication. It never happened. It never happened. This one was invented by a writer. No way. We got you. Not a chance. Not this time. It never happened. It never happened. We made this one up. It's fiction. We made up this one.
This is a strange one. I'm not really sure where this person's head was when they wrote this. Straight off the bat, it kind of eliminates all of those people that the hunt for survival. 1% isn't a very big percentage, is it? Let's look at this as it is. What you're saying, even if I give you the benefit of the doubt here. So because essentially humans are responsible for the creation of these animals, they can do what they want with them. So if you take that to the next level, so everyone who is a parent who has created a child, because that child is only alive because of human intervention, you're allowed to do what you want with them? No? How can you even make that sort of statement? I mean, I don't know where you've pulled that percentage from, probably completely out of your ass, but everything about that paragraph, and I mean, we're not talking a lot of words, but almost everything in there is wrong. No animals are victims. Every single animal that's killed for greed is a victim. Every single animal that has its rights taken without permission is a victim. So therefore, all of these animals in all of these systems and all of these industries are most definitely victims, even before they're killed. Welcome back to part 3 of, what did I even call this series? Arguing with idiots, torturing myself, responding to comments. Yeah, that was it. Although torturing myself was probably more accurate, it's nothing compared to what the animals go through, so I'll enjoy this one more time. Welcome to part 3 of responding to comments. I can't see why that would be important information for anyone other than people looking for an excuse as to why they don't want to make any changes. Yeah, of course, I'll concede the point that if you go like for like, meat-based products versus meat replacement products, they're always going to be more expensive for the moment. You talk about supply and demand all the time. Well, that's a perfect example of it. Obviously, the supply for meat-based products is far more than the demand for plant-based products at the moment, and that's why you can go and buy 20 pork sausages, for example, for £1.50 from Tesco, whereas you can't get more than 6 plant-based sausages for, I don't know, less than £2. That's something I will absolutely concede. However, that doesn't make veganism a luxury, because those are just certain products that at the moment, because of the market, are a little bit more expensive. So if you can't afford those, that doesn't mean that you can't eat. I'm sure that most people are already buying fruit and veg and cereal and pasta and things like that on their weekly shop. So it's just a case of stocking up more on those items and buying less of the meat-based ones and the animal-based products. Dairy's not cheap, and unless you're eating crappy processed meat, things like steak isn't cheap, a joint of meat isn't cheap. So people constantly say, I buy mine organic, or I go and get it from this place. Well, then you're paying good money for it, so money obviously isn't the issue. But on that note anyway, I always find it pretty ironic that it's always the people that aren't vegan that tell me how expensive it is. Come and do my shopping with me, because I've done it every week for the last 8 years, so surely I'm a better judge of what's expensive and what isn't than someone that's never done it. But it's certainly not a question of money. It really isn't. People always manage to find a money to smoke or to drink or to do any of the things that they want to, so don't blame money. It's just another excuse. So if there was any significance whatsoever in the fact that you were vegetarian, you would never have left that comment. So I can just basically disregard it and address the actual point, which I'm going to do so pretty bluntly, to be honest, because it's no different than personal choice. If anything, it's kind of the way that you've left it, it's worse than that. So let's look at it this way. I'm against child abuse, but I would never tell others to do so, as I believe in a person's right to choose. Do you understand how stupid it sounds now? That's all it needs. The fact that your screen name is Namaste and you're claiming to be vegetarian just makes this comment so much worse though, honestly. It's like both of those things are just words. Well, in fairness, at its simplest level, there isn't one. But it's not a fair comparison. For a start, the huge difference between the two is intent. However, if you're looking at the example you've listed, so the worm for soy, well, the vast majority of soy is actually fed to livestock. I've already done a video that will play in the background, I guess. This is a really silly argument. I never understand why people think this benefits them. The vast majority of plants that are grown in the world are being fed to animals that you're eating. So if there was an argument here, you're worse. You're killing twice as many. It's not just the fact that you're having animals slaughtered, it's the fact that insects and rodents and birds have to die to feed the animals that you're having slaughtered. Veganism is about doing the absolute best that you can. I think people need to recognise that as industries shift and work towards a more plant-based world, that all of these companies that make things like fertiliser and everything else will also have to shift. If everyone has a vegan mindset, this is something that gets forgotten. When you make these silly comments where you say, what about if everyone went vegan overnight? It wouldn't just be the food that changed. Everyone's mindset would change. So farmers wouldn't go out of their way to kill animals. Companies wouldn't go out of their way to invent pesticides or chemicals or anything else that that destroy life, because everyone would have a different mindset. It wouldn't just be that they weren't eating them anymore, it would be that they wouldn't want to cause them any harm. So if everyone went vegan overnight, all these companies would also adapt. Oh shit. What you want to answer? Are you going to do it properly this time? Because I mean last week. As long as you promise to take it seriously. Go on then.
Have you ever walked out of a mall into a huge parking area and realized you'd forgotten where you parked your car?
Just...
Do you believe in the power of a curse?
Yeah, I'm starting to, mate. I'm starting to do exactly what that feels like. Just do the line, please.
It's false. No way. Not this time. We created it. Not this time. No, not this time. It's totally made up. Pure fiction. It's fiction. It's fiction. We made it up.
Yeah, are you serious? Do you know how many things that we used to do before, or once upon a time, that we no longer do for whatever reason? You know, people used to go and see the seer. People used to consult the seer. People used to believe in a whole host of gods. People used to burn each other at the stake. They used to pillage and ransack villages. Like, are you serious? How is this a precedent? In fact, you know what? Fuck this. This needs a poem all by itself. And so I guess that concludes part 3. I'm off to write a poem. This question seems to come up all of the time, so I figured I'd answer it instead with a poem of mine. We've been doing insert whatever here for millennium now. Back in 1066 they were artificially inseminating cows, or genetically modifying the growth rate and size of their cells. Even if that had any tangibility, you can't genuinely believe that. We did something for X amount of time, therefore we can't adapt. If somehow that is the case, and you're not accepting of change, allow me to list some of the things that luckily no longer remain. We no longer drown witches, treat with leeches, or live inside caves. We no longer use the rack, the guillotine, or accept people being slaves. The names of countries and the size of their borders constantly change. Even art, scriptures, sculptures, architecture and design alike have all swiftly shifted and moulded to fit the most recent hypes. We don't even have to go back all that far into the past to find serious advances that are improvements on the last. Just look at something as simple as how you access stuff online. No more dial-up, no more waiting for cheaper prices after a set time. This wasn't all that long ago, and yet you still wouldn't want to go back. So why cite thousands of years ago as some precedent for us now to act? If your child misbehaved and was caned, would you accept that? After all, that's how it was done to kids for all those decades before, and thus surely justification for how we should act forevermore? Do you yet see the problem with the excuses that you make? That you're repeating an error until it becomes a mistake? Just because something worked doesn't by default make it right. It is about acknowledging and looking at it in a very different light. With attitudes like yours, people would have never took flight. Happy instead to just stay on foot, not even tram, bike nor cart, because even that had always worked for us right from the very start. It's funny how these people who leave this comment to bemoan never use smoke signals or drums, but instead their smartphones. I won't joke if you don't make excuses, because for real, I want us all to unite, and instead of relying on methods that maximise the ending of life, we go back to the drawing boards and give this whole humanity thing another try. Work together to seek solutions in future that suit and benefit everyone, instead of looking backwards, because that's what we've always done.